I'm done with you, Liam. I've been seeing Jake for months, and I'm not sorry. Olivia spat, tossing her wedding ring onto the kitchen table. It skidded across the wood, landing with a dull clink. I stood frozen, my pulse hammering, but I forced a calm smile. That's fine, I said, my voice steady. His wife just called. She's on her way to discuss it with you both. Olivia's face drained of color as the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, cutting through the silence like a blade. My name's Liam, 32, a high school history teacher in Austin, Texas. I'm the guy who stays late to help students with their essays, coaches the middle school soccer team for free, and fixes neighbors' bikes on weekends. It's not glamorous, but it's who I am. 5 years ago, I married Olivia, a 30-year-old graphic designer with a laugh that used to make me forget my own name. We met at a food truck festival, bonding over burnt tacos and a shared love for old vinyl records. Back then, she'd drag me to dance in the rain or spend hours sketching my hands while I graded papers. We were happy, or so I thought. Lately, though, Olivia's been a stranger. She started staying late at her studio, claiming client deadlines, but her phone was always locked, her answers vague. I'd ask about her day, and she'd shrug, eyes glued to her screen. I told myself it was stress, maybe a big project. I didn't push. I didn't want to be that guy, suspicious, controlling. But 3 nights ago, everything changed. I was tossing laundry into the washer when her phone buzzed on the counter. She was in the shower, and I glanced at the screen out of habit. A text from Jay lit up. Meet me at the Driscoll, room 204, 9 p.m. My stomach twisted. The Driscoll's a fancy hotel downtown, not the kind of place you meet a client. I stood there, the hum of the washer filling the silence, debating whether to confront her. But something told me to wait, to dig deeper. If I was wrong, I'd look like a fool. If I was right, I needed proof. The next day, I started paying attention. Olivia left for work early, her purse slung over her shoulder, but she forgot her coffee mug, a habit she never broke. I waited until her car pulled out, then checked her laptop, left open on the couch. Her email was clean, too clean, like she'd scrubbed it. But I found a hidden folder labeled Invoices. Inside was a single email from an account I didn't recognize. Don't let him suspect. Miami's waiting. My hand shook as I read it. Miami? We'd never talked about moving. I closed the laptop, my mind racing. Who was she talking to, and why hide it? That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I slipped a small voice recorder into the side pocket of her purse while she slept. It was a cheap thing, bought years ago for recording lectures, but it would pick up conversation. I told myself it was just to rule out my fears. If she was working late, I'd hear talk of fonts and deadlines. If not, I didn't let myself finish the thought. The next evening, Olivia said she had a client meeting at 8 p.m. She left in a hurry, her phone buzzing as she walked out. I waited an hour, then drove to the Driscoll, parking across the street. Her car was in the lot, tucked between a pickup and a sleek BMW. I didn't go inside. Instead, I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, watching the hotel's glowing windows like they might tell me something. At 10:47 p.m., she walked out arm in arm with a guy, tall, slick, probably mid-30s. Jake. I'd seen him before, a real estate agent who'd come to a barbecue we hosted last summer. He'd lingered too long by Olivia, refilling her drink, laughing at her jokes. I'd brushed it off then. Not now. I drove home, my knuckles white. When Olivia got back at midnight, she acted normal, asking if I wanted takeout. I nodded, keeping my voice even, but inside I was unraveling. The next morning, while she was at yoga, I pulled the recorder from her purse. The audio was clear. Her voice, light and teasing. Liam's so predictable, always grading papers or fixing something. It's suffocating. Then Jake, his tone smug. You deserve more, Liv. Miami's going to be our fresh start. I stopped the recording, my chest tight. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning to leave me, to vanish. I didn't confront her yet. I needed more. I called Emily, Jake's wife, whose number I had from that same barbecue. She picked up on the second ring, her voice wary. Liam? Everything okay? I told her what I'd heard, keeping it brief. There was a long pause, then she said, I'm not surprised. Jake's done this before. Meet me tomorrow at the coffee shop on Lamar. We need to talk. That night, I lay in bed next to Olivia, her breathing soft and steady, like nothing was wrong. I stared at the ceiling, the recorder's words looping in my head. Predictable. Suffocating. I wasn't angry yet, just hollow. But something else gnawed at me. The email, The text from Jay, the secrecy, it felt too coordinated, like I was a pawn in someone's game. And then, as I scrolled through my phone at 2 a.m., a new message popped up from an unknown number. Check her car. Back seat. You're welcome. My blood ran cold. Someone else knew. Someone was watching. The coffee shop on Lamar buzzed with morning chatter, but Emily's voice cut through it like a knife. Jake's been lying to me for years, she said, stirring her latte without looking at it. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying the calm she was trying to project. This isn't his first affair, Liam. But Olivia? That's new. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. What do you know about them? Emily's eyes flicked up, sharp and tired. Enough to help you bury him. We sat in a corner booth, away from the baristas, steaming milk and the laptops clicking around us. Emily, a 34-year-old accountant with a no-nonsense vibe, pulled out her phone and showed me a string of emails she'd hacked from Jake's account months ago. They were from Olivia, sent through a burner email, talking about weekend getaways and a new life in Miami. One line stuck out. Liam's clueless. He'll never check my phone. My jaw tightened, but I stayed quiet, letting Emily keep going. She'd found bank transfers too. Jake moving money to an offshore account. He's planning something big, she said, and Olivia's part of it. I told her about the recorder, the Driscoll, and the anonymous text urging me to check Olivia's car. Emily's face darkened. Someone's feeding you this. Jake's not that sloppy. She agreed to keep digging into his accounts while I checked the car. That night, under the cover of darkness, I slipped out to our driveway. Olivia was at her studio, or so she said. Her car was unlocked, and in the back seat, under a gym bag, I found a burner phone. It was cheap, no passcode. The texts were all from an unknown number. He's watching you. Leave soon. Another read. Liam's closer than you think. My stomach churned. Whoever this was, they knew too much. The next day, I skipped my usual soccer practice and tailed Olivia. She drove to a diner on the edge of Austin, meeting Jake in a booth by the window. I parked across the street, watching through binoculars I grabbed from an old camping kit. They leaned close, laughing, her hand on his arm. My chest burned, but I focused on the details. Jake slipped her a small envelope, and she tucked it in her purse. When they left, I followed Jake. He drove to a storage unit off Highway 71, punched in a code, and disappeared inside. I waited, then jotted down the gate code when he left. That night, I broke into the storage unit. The code worked, and the place was deserted, just rows of orange doors under flickering lights. Jake's unit, number 17, held a safe, a duffel bag, and a laptop. I didn't touch the safe, too risky, but the laptop was unsecured. It had files labeled Miami Plan, property listings, bank account numbers, and a draft email to Olivia about cutting ties clean. There's also a folder of photos, me leaving school, fixing a bike, even one from last week, walking to my car. Someone had been tailing me. I copied the files to a USB drive and got out before anyone showed up. Back home, Olivia was on the couch, scrolling her phone. Long day? She asked, not looking up. I nodded, playing it cool, but my mind was racing. The photos, the texts, the money. It wasn't just an affair. Jake was orchestrating something, and Olivia was either complicit or clueless. I leaned toward complicit. The next morning, I met Emily again. She traced the offshore account to a shell company Jake owned. He's siphoning money from clients, she said. Olivia's savings are in there too. She transferred 10 grand last month. I felt a pang of betrayal, sharper than before. That was our money, saved for a house. Then my phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Storage unit was bold. Check your mailbox. My heart raced. I hadn't told anyone about the break-in. At home, I found an unmarked envelope in the mailbox containing a single USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop, hands shaking. It held a video, Olivia and Jake at the Driscoll, kissing in a hallway, time-stamped 2 weeks ago. The metadata had GPS coordinates, not for the hotel, but for a rural spot an hour outside Austin. A note in the file read, "She's not who you think. Neither is he." I showed Emily the video. Her face went pale. That's not Jake's style. He doesn't record himself. She paused, then added, "Someone's playing you both." We agreed to keep this quiet. No police yet. Not until we knew who was behind the texts. I drove to the coordinates that night, a winding road leading to a dirt path. My headlights caught a faded sign, "Private property." The air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. I didn't go further. Not yet. But I knew I was close to something dangerous. When I got home, Olivia was packing a suitcase. "Client trip," she said, avoiding my eyes. I didn't push. Instead, I texted Emily. "She's leaving. We need to move fast." The reply came quick. "I found something. Meet me tomorrow. It's worse than we thought." As I lay in bed, the USB drive burned a hole in my pocket. Whoever was sending these clues wasn't just exposing Olivia. They were pulling me into a game I didn't understand. But I was done being the clueless husband. Tomorrow, I'd start fighting back. Emily's text came at 6 a.m. "Meet me at Zilker Park by the Barton Springs entrance. Bring the USB." I was already awake, having barely slept, the video from the mysterious USB looping in my head. Olivia and Jake laughing in the Driscoll's hallway, oblivious to the camera watching them. The GPS coordinates pointing to a rural property haunted me, but I hadn't gone back. Not yet. I grabbed the USB, slipped it into my pocket, and headed out, leaving Olivia asleep. She'd returned late from her client trip, her suitcase still unpacked by the door. At Zilker, Emily was waiting on a bench, clutching a thermos of coffee like a lifeline. Her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been up all night too. "Jake's deeper in this than I thought," she said, voice low. She handed me a folder of printouts, bank statements, emails, and a contract. Jake had been funneling money from his real estate deals into a shell company. But the contract was the kicker. It named Olivia as a co-signer on a Miami condo purchase, dated 3 months ago. "She's not just cheating," Emily said. "She's invested in a scam." My stomach dropped. Our savings, our future, gone, tied up in Jake's lies. I showed her the USB video and the coordinates. Emily's brow furrowed. "This isn't Jake's work. He's cocky, not careful enough to stage something like this." She tapped her phone, pulling up a map. The coordinates led to a plot near Bastrop, a wooded area with no listed owner. "We need to go there," she said. "But first, I found something else." She showed me a text from an unknown number, identical to mine. "Tell Liam to check the storage unit again. Unit 17. Bottom drawer." My skin prickled. Whoever was sending these messages was watching both of us. We drove to the storage facility separately, parking a block away to avoid attention. The gate code still worked, and Unit 17 was just as I'd left it. Safe, duffel bag, laptop. But in the bottom drawer of a rusty filing cabinet, I found a burner phone, different from the one in Olivia's car. It had one contact, Watcher. The messages were chilling. "She's lying to you both, and Jake's not the endgame." The last one, sent an hour ago, read, "Look in the duffel." Inside the bag, I found a stack of photos. Me at school, Olivia at her studio, and one of Emily leaving her office. Someone had been tailing all of us. Emily's voice shook. "This is bigger than an affair. We're being played." We copied the phone's data and left, agreeing to meet later. Back home, Olivia was gone again, her suitcase missing. I checked her laptop, still open from the night before, and found a new email in her hidden folder. "Meet me at the cabin tonight. We're done hiding." It was from Jake, sent at 3 a.m. The cabin had to be the Bastrop property. I forwarded the email to Emily, then grabbed my keys. I wasn't waiting anymore. The drive to Bastrop was tense, the road narrowing as trees closed in. My phone lost signal 10 miles out, and the GPS flickered, but I'd memorized the coordinates. The dirt path from before appeared, and I pulled over, parking behind a thicket to stay hidden. The clearing was just as eerie as I'd imagined. A circular patch of bare earth, centered by a ramshackle cabin with boarded windows and a faint light flickering inside. I gripped a flashlight and a pocket knife, not sure what I'd need, but unwilling to go in empty-handed. The cabin door creaked open at my touch. Inside, the air was stale, papers scattered across a warped table. Newspaper clippings lined one wall. Articles about Jake's real estate deals, some marked with red ink. Fraud? And check the accounts. A photo of Olivia and Jake was pinned dead center, taken outside the Driscoll, identical to the USB video. My heart pounded. Someone had been here, documenting everything. Then I saw it, a map of Austin with my house circled, next to a list of dates and times, my schedule, down to the hour. Footsteps crunched outside. I ducked behind a crate, holding my breath. Jake's voice carried through the thin walls. "She's meeting me here. We're leaving tonight." Another voice, Olivia's, replied, "What about Liam? He's not stupid." Jake laughed. "He's a teacher, Liv. He's not a threat." Rage surged through me, but I stayed still. The door swung open, and they stepped inside, unaware of me. Olivia clutched an envelope, likely the one Jake gave her at the diner. "This better work," she said. "I'm done sneaking around." Before I could move, my phone buzzed in my pocket, loud enough to echo. Jake spun around, eyes narrowing. "Who's there?" he barked. I stood, no point hiding now. Olivia gasped, dropping the envelope. "Liam, what the hell?" Jake stepped forward, fist clenched, but I held up the burner phone. "Someone's been watching you both, and they led me here." Olivia's face paled, but Jake smirked. "You're out of your depth, man. Go home." That's when the cabin's lights flickered and a new text hit the burner. "Look behind you." I turned, half expecting a trap, but saw only a shadow outside the window, gone in a blink. Jake lunged for the phone, but I dodged, shoving him back. Olivia screamed, "Stop it." The tension snapped as headlights flashed outside. A car door slammed, and Emily's voice called out, "Liam, get out here." I bolted, Jake cursing behind me. Emily stood by her car, holding another USB drive. "The Watcher sent this to my office. It's proof. Jake's been scamming clients for years. Olivia's money is gone." I glanced back at the cabin. Olivia stood in the doorway, frozen, as Jake slipped out the back, disappearing into the dark. Emily's car idled in the dark, her knuckles white on the steering wheel as she handed me the new USB drive. "The Watcher sent this to my office today," she said, her voice tight. "It's Jake's entire scam. Bank records, fake contracts, everything. Your wife's in deep, Liam." I clutched the drive, my mind reeling from the confrontation in the cabin. Olivia's betrayal was bad enough, but Jake slipping into the night and the Watcher's shadow outside the window made it clear. This wasn't just about an affair. Someone was pulling strings, and we were all caught in the web. I drove home, Emily following in her car. Olivia hadn't chased after me. She'd stayed in the cabin doorway, silent, the envelope from Jake still in her hand. Back at the house, I plugged the USB into my laptop. It contained spreadsheets detailing Jake's embezzlement from clients, including $10,000 from Olivia's savings, funneled into a shell company. There was also a recorded call, Olivia's voice, agreeing to transfer the money for their future. My chest tightened. She hadn't just cheated. She'd gambled our life together on Jake's lies. But the final file was the real shock, a grainy photo of a woman I didn't recognize, mid-30s, standing outside my school. A note attached read, "She knows everything. Find her." Emily scanned the photo. "That's not a client or friend of Jake's. Could be the Watcher." We searched the name on the shell company's records. Clara Hensley, a former real estate partner of Jake's who vanished after accusing him of fraud 2 years ago. Her social media was dormant, but an old post mentioned a bar in East Austin, the Yellow Jacket. "If she's the Watcher, she's close," Emily said. "And she wants Jake down as much as we do." The next morning, I went to the Yellow Jacket, a dive bar with sticky floors and a jukebox humming in the corner. I showed the bartender Clara's photo. He nodded. "She comes in sometimes late. Try after 10 p.m. I left, but my phone buzzed with another text from the Watcher. "You're getting warm. Check Olivia's email again." I raced home, heart pounding. Olivia was at her studio, or so she claimed. Her laptop was still on the couch, and in her hidden folder, I found a new email from Jake. "Meet me at the airport, 11 p.m. Miami's ready. Ditch him." My hand shook. She was planning to run tonight. I called Emily, who was already tailing Jake. "He's at a hotel downtown," she said. "I'm watching his car. He's got a bag packed." I told her about the email and Clara. "We need to find her before they leave," Emily said. "I'll stay on Jake. You at the bar." At 10:15 p.m., I was back at the Yellow Jacket, scanning the crowd. A woman in a corner booth matched Clara's photo. She was alone, nursing a beer, her eyes flicking to the door every few seconds. I approached, sliding the photo across the table. "You're Clara, aren't you? The Watcher?" Her gaze hardened, but she didn't deny it. "You're Liam," she said, voice low. "I've been trying to warn you." She leaned forward, explaining how Jake had ruined her life, stole her clients, framed her for fraud, forced her to disappear. "He's doing it again with Olivia," she said. "I've been tracking him for months, sending you proof to stop him." She handed me a flash drive. "This has enough to put him away. Bank records, forged signatures, everything. Give it to the police." I asked why she didn't go to the cops herself. "Jake has friends in high places," she said. "I needed someone clean, someone he'd never suspect." "You." Before I could respond, My phone buzzed. Emily. Jake's on the move. Airport. Olivia's with him. I thanked Clara and sprinted to my car. The airport was a 20-minute drive, but I made it in 15, weaving through traffic. Emily met me at the terminal entrance, her face grim. There at the check-in counter, international flights. We pushed through the crowd, spotting Olivia and Jake at the counter, her suitcase at her feet. I stepped forward, voice steady. Olivia, you're not leaving. She froze, eyes wide. Jake smirked, but it faltered when I held up Clara's flash drive. The police are getting this tonight, I said. Your Miami dream's over, Jake. Emily stepped up, adding, and I've got your wife's statement, too. You're done. Olivia's face crumpled, realizing Jake's promises were empty. Jake bolted, shoving past travelers, but airport security was already closing in. Emily had tipped them off. Olivia sank to the floor, sobbing, as Jake was detained. I didn't comfort her. Instead, I handed Clara's drive to Emily. Get this to the police, I said. She nodded, then hesitated. What about her? I looked at Olivia, still on the ground, clutching her suitcase. She made her choice, I said, walking away. My phone buzzed one last time. Good work. You're free now. See, Clara was gone, but her shadow lingered, a reminder that truth always finds a way. The airport's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Olivia sat on the floor, her suitcase tipped over beside her. Jake was gone, hauled off by security, his smug grin replaced by panic as they cuffed him. I stood a few feet away, the weight of Clara's flash drive now in Emily's hands, ready to be handed to the police. Olivia looked up at me, eyes red, voice barely a whisper. Liam, I didn't know he'd take everything. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked out, leaving her to face the wreckage of her choices. The next morning, I met Emily at the Austin police station. She delivered Clara's evidence, bank records, forged contracts, and proof of Jake's embezzlement. The detective, a no-nonsense woman named Torres, confirmed Jake was being charged with fraud and stalking. Your wife's name is on some of these accounts, Torres said, flipping through the file. She could face charges too, unless she cooperates. I nodded, unsurprised. Olivia had tied herself to Jake's schemes, and now she'd answer for it. I handed over the burner phone and USBs from the watcher, explaining Clara's role without revealing her current whereabouts. Torres raised an eyebrow. This Clara's a ghost, but her evidence is solid. We'll take it from here. Back home, the house felt too quiet. Olivia had texted once, asking to talk, but I didn't reply. Instead, I called a lawyer and started divorce proceedings. The paperwork was straightforward. Our savings were gone, the house was rented, and we had no kids to complicate things. I didn't want her apologies or her excuses. I wanted a clean break. That afternoon, I drove to the community center where I coach soccer and signed up to volunteer, needing something to anchor me. The kids' laughter as they kicked a ball around was the first thing that felt real in weeks. A few days later, Emily called with an update. Olivia had turned herself in, agreeing to testify against Jake to avoid charges. She's moving to Dallas, Emily said. Says she needs a fresh start. I didn't care where she went. Olivia's betrayal had cut deep, but also woke me up. I've been sleepwalking through my life, trusting too much, questioning too little. Clara's messages, those cryptic texts and drives, had forced me to see the truth, not just about Olivia, but about myself. I went back to the Yellow Jacket bar, hoping to find Clara, to thank her or maybe ask why she'd chosen me. The bartender shook his head. Haven't seen her in days. I left a note with my number, but deep down, I knew she was gone. Clara had played her part, dismantling Jake's world without ever stepping into the light. Her final text, "You're free now," echoed in my mind. She wasn't just talking about Jake or Olivia. She meant me, free from the life I'd clung to out of habit. Weeks passed. Jake's case hit the local news. Real estate agent busted for defrauding clients, with Olivia's testimony sealing his fate. He was looking at years in prison. I didn't watch the coverage. Instead, I adopted a rescue dog, a scrappy mutt named Max who chewed my sneakers and slept sprawled across my couch. I started writing again. Not the lesson plans I'd bury myself in, but a blog about rebuilding after betrayal. It wasn't for fame, just a way to process, to connect with others who've been blindsided by the people they trusted most. One evening, while walking Max along the Colorado River, I got a final envelope. No stamp, no return address, just my name in neat black ink. Inside was a single photo, the cabin near Bastrop, now boarded up with a for sale sign out front. On the back, in Clara's handwriting, "It's over. Keep moving forward." I tucked it into my pocket, watching the sunset paint the water gold. For the first time in months, I didn't feel watched or hunted. The watcher had vanished, her mission complete. Olivia sent a letter a month later, care of my lawyer. No apologies, just a short note thanking me for being steady when she couldn't be. She was starting over in Dallas, working at a small design firm, trying to rebuild without running. I didn't write back. Forgiveness wasn't about her. It was about me letting go. I burned the letter in my backyard, not out of anger, but to close the chapter. Max barked at the flames, tail wagging, oblivious to the weight of it all. My blog gained traction, comments pouring in from people who'd faced their own betrayals. I didn't have all the answers, but I shared what I'd learned. Truth hurts, but it's the only way out. I kept coaching, kept writing, kept walking Max. The house stopped feeling like a museum of what was. I planted a small garden, tomatoes, mostly, though half died from my amateur efforts. It didn't matter. It was mine to start. Sometimes I wonder about Clara. Was she still out there, exposing other liars, dropping envelopes like bombs? Or had she found her own peace? I never know, but I owed her. She didn't just save me from Jake and Olivia. She saved me from staying small, from settling for a life half-lived. As Max tugged me toward the riverbank, chasing a squirrel, I smiled. The sun dipped low, and I was still here, not just surviving, but living.